TFL EV is brought to you by Flow Charger, maker of reliable, high-quality charging stations for your electric vehicle.
Hey everybody, I've got such a fun video for you today because this is the Audi e-tron GT, an all-electric sports sedan. And in this video, we're gonna find out, is it worth $119,000? Should you get this or Tesla Model S? And do you need to spend the extra $40,000 to get the RS version? Let's get right into it. Driving the Audi e-tron GT. Let's give it a quick squirt up to the speed limit. Yeah, it's pretty quick. Almost 470 horsepower means that you get a nice little shove when you push down hard on that accelerator. Now, a couple of unique things about this car. First of all, specs, 93 kilowatt hours gross battery, which is not far off of like a Tesla Model S, right around 100 kilowatt hours gross on the Tesla. However, this car is rated at 238 miles on a single charge. The Tesla is rated at over 400 miles on a single charge. So in terms of road tripping and long distance cruising, I think the Tesla's probably gonna have that advantage. Although the Audi does charge insanely quick with up to 270 kilowatts of peak charging. Now, daily drivability, 238 is more than enough than you'll ever need. It's just those long trips where I'd be a little bit concerned. Now, this is an all-wheel drive vehicle. With the performance package, we do have torque vectoring, plus we also have four-wheel steering, which does add to the fun to drive factor. So when you start making harder turns, when you start driving a little bit more spirited, having that rear end kind of contribute to the steering experience is an awesome, awesome feature. The Audi e-tron GT is sister cars to the Porsche Taycan. And if you're gonna design a car based on another car, the Taycan is about as good as it gets. So the Audi shares a lot of bits and bobs and architecture with that Porsche, including the 800-volt battery and of course the 2-speed transmission. Now, visually it's pretty different from the Taycan, but there's a couple of angles where it is very apparent. For example, this rear 3/4, the way the roof kind of slopes down and meets the window, that's just all Porsche Taycan. However, there are a bunch of differences, especially in the front. Now, the Taycan is very round, very smooth, with these little squinty headlights. The Audi is much more angular and in some ways much more bold. Now, there are two primary versions of the e-tron GT. There's this model, the e-tron GT, and then there is the RS e-tron GT, which is an even higher performance model. Now, a couple of really cool things here on the front of the car. First of all, these LED lights with the matrix patterns, and they even have laser functionality. Now, here in the US, we have really stupid, antiquated headlight laws, so a lot of the cool functionality doesn't really work in the US as compared to Europe, but they still look fantastic. And then in the front end, we've got this kind of little dimpling effect here on the grille. The only thing I don't like about the design of this car is this giant inlet down here. It feels like there should be some kind of grille or some kind of grate on here. Now, we do have some sensors down here, including your sensor for the adaptive cruise control. I just wish they covered it up a little bit. And what do you think of the color? Pretty wild, huh? This is called Tactical Green. It's about a $500 option, but boy, is it bold. The Audi e-tron GT does have a front trunk, but it took me a super long time to figure out how to pop it because the release is actually down here in the door. You push this button and now you can access the front trunk. But what's so unusual about this is there's no button on the front of the vehicle. There's no button here on the key fob. You gotta open the door and push that little switch. This car is 469 horsepower and 464 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty good. And there's also a special boost mode, which, when active, ups the horsepower to 522. Audi says 0 to 60 in right around 4 seconds. Now, if you want to go quicker, you can get the RS version, which will go 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds. That's got like, what, nearly 700 horsepower. But the secret is you really don't need it, as we'll find out when we get this thing on the road. But as you pop the hood, you'll find a hole. It's actually a pretty sizable front trunk. It's not super long, it's not super wide, but it is very deep. It'll definitely hold your carry-on. Some other things worth talking about. It's very quiet, very serene, and there's a number of different drive modes. If you go into the comfort setting, it's very comfortable actually, almost a little bit floaty on the highway, which is great because here in the US, for for the vast majority of the time, all we do is drive straight for miles and miles and miles. So having kind of a softer ride is good. It's not quite as high strung in my opinion as the Taycan, but then if you dial it into the dynamic setting, you get a much more sporty experience. And another cool thing too is that 2-speed automatic transmission, right? In normal mode, you go to hit the accelerator, there's kind of a pause, and then it shoots you in the back as it downshifts. In the dynamic setting, when you accelerate, it's, well, as you could hear, the videographer's head just hit the seat. It kind of locks you into the mode that's going to give you the fastest acceleration. In that case, that was first gear. There's also an efficiency setting if you want to kind of cruise down for the longest possible driving experience. It's also going to lower the air suspension. The air suspension is a really cool touch in this car. Now, it certainly is not quite as fun to drive, I think, as some of like these smaller Audi RS models, like an RS3 or an RS5, and that's because it weighs 5,000 pounds, over 5,000 pounds. But what that lends itself to is extreme stability and extreme sense of confidence. This thing is like driving a slab of granite down a water slide. Yes, it will take the turns, and yes, it will throw some G's, but what it likes doing is just being planted and absolutely secure for miles and miles and miles. You can definitely tell that this thing was tuned and bred for the Autobahn, because it's got that ride quality where it'll just go at really high speeds without, you know, letting anything affect it, like wind or road imperfections. Now, it's a lot more fun to drive, I think, than a Tesla Model S, don't get me wrong. It's certainly more tossable than that. It also feels quite a bit smaller, a little bit more claustrophobic in here than Tesla Model S. You definitely sit lower to the ground, but this is definitely the better built of the two. Now, because of the price, right, $119,000, it is, you know, entering a highly competitive set. Not only do you have models like the Mercedes EQS, perhaps a Lucid, and the Tesla, but you also have the sister car, the Taycan, and I'm kind of on the fence which one I prefer. The Taycan actually has a lower entry price. This thing starts at $105,000 for the 2023 model year, whereas the Taycan can be had for under $100K, but the Taycan you can also get in rear-wheel drive and a smaller battery. This one is only offered in that 93 kilowatt-hour battery and all-wheel drive. Now the rear trunk, or the runk, or we'll just call it the trunk, is a little bit more disappointing. So it does go very, very deep, but it's not exceptionally wide, and it's actually pretty low. This is a quite small camera bag, and if you stood it up like this, you're really going to run into some clearance issues. Now, one thing you'll notice in this model is we got these carabiners holding in this bag, and this is where you're going to find the integrated charger. And what I love about this is they include both level 1 and level 2 charging capability, which is just absolutely fantastic. Love that Audi does that. Now, what's underneath this little strap? Let's lift it up. Got a teeny tiny bit of additional storage. And then what is a good feature is you got these really deep bins on both sides of the trunk. One cool option on this particular e-tron is the $4,000 full leather interior package. Now that gives you some interesting stuff. It gives you these unique front seats with this honeycomb style pattern similar to the RS. It gives you leather on just about every surface, but it also gives you like a heated steering wheel and ventilated front seats and that kind of thing. But it does make the interior feel a lot more premium than if you didn't have that option. Even though this car is based on the Porsche Taycan, the interior is extremely different. Some of that is good, other parts of that not so great. Now, what I love about the Audi is the infotainment system and the digital cockpit. So this is a 10-inch screen, and then in front of the steering wheel, we have a full 12-inch display, which is configurable, and you can do stuff like show the navigation on the screen, and that is very, very neat. But I actually like the Audi MMI system more than the Porsche version. It's quite easy to use. It's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but I find the integration to be very simple, very user-friendly, and overall a little bit better than the Porsche. I also like the hard controls down here for the climate control. So we've got these little toggles to control the temperature, the fan speed. You can turn the AC on, off. There's an eco and a max setting. And then below that, a set of air vents. Once again, I love how these are manually controlled. Very, very simple. And then some other things down here, including the drive select, traction control off. Now this is where things fall apart a little bit for me. Lots and lots and lots and lots of piano black on this model, which just attracts fingerprints, and it no longer feels or looks very premium to me. I'm also not sold on this little domino, this little tic-tac box that you use to actually select the gear. It's all right, but I think the Porsche system is just a little bit better. And then this is kind of cool, kind of not cool. You actually spin this little circle here, this little touchpad to adjust the volume. You've got this cubby which looks exactly like a little teeny tiny mouse coffin. And then back here, we've got dual cup holders and a little bit of storage capacity in the rear there. Now across the dash, we do have some more piano black finish, and this one has this carbon finish as well because we have the Sport package. Sport package gives you stuff like this carbon finish, black accents, but it also gives you torque vectoring and a few other really cool things. Actually, the Sport package, we'll talk about it in a sec, is probably worth it as well. And then up top, glass roof, no shade, no way to block it, but Audi does say that you know, it will keep the harmful rays out and it's not supposed to let too much heat in here. The steering wheel, love the perforated leather steering wheel. It looks and feels awesome. We've got paddle shifters to adjust the regen. The displays themselves are very configurable and overall quite easy to use, and just love them. We also have the adaptive cruise control on this model, automatic headlights over here on the left side of the dashboard, but overall the interior is quite nice. There's only a couple of things I really dislike. The footwell I find to be a little bit short for me. So the steering wheel is big, the steering wheel is in its topmost position, and sometimes when I'm kind of going to make sharper turns, I do find that the flat bottom actually on this point makes contact with my knee, which is a little bit annoying. And the seats, I think if you are a larger American, we do have the adjustable bolsters, which is good, but even with the bolsters all the way out, it's probably going to be a little bit tight if you're a larger individual. All right, let's go ahead and try the boost mode. So what we're going to do is dynamic mode, hard on the brake, hard in the accelerator. And on the acceleration indicator, it actually shows above 100%. So hard on the brake, it's ready. Hard on the accelerator, that's boost mode. And then just let go. And there is 60, and you can actually feel the clunk as it shifts into second gear. That's very impressive. Now, it's not mind-numbing. It's not going to, you know, send you to the hospital, which probably a good thing, like a Tesla Plaid would. However, it is very, very adequate, and it's a ton of fun, and that is actually the reason that I wouldn't get an RS over this car. I mean, when you go to accelerate hard, like, it's ready, it's there, it'll push you back in the seat, puts a big smile on the face of all your passengers. Sure, the RS is going to be a little bit more violent, but is it $30,000, $40,000 more violent? No. And as I understand it, the actual hardware itself is the same, it's just the software that's different. So if you want to save some money, but if you still want a really fun driving experience, just get the standard e-tron GT over the RS model. The back seat of the Audi e-tron GT is quite snug in a number of ways. So the sloping roofline does not benefit taller passengers. I'm about 6'1", and I would need to kind of crouch down a little bit to fit comfortably. These enormous bucket seats definitely obscure the view. And then also check this out. It's technically a 5-seater, but let's call it what it is, a 4.5-seater, because this middle seat, it's high, it's tiny. It's definitely more for emergencies. Now, the seat comfort is very good. We also have the executive package in this one. So check this out. We have rear climate and heated rear seats. And then if you kind of look up a little bit here, we do have a center armrest, which will fold down. If I can get that engaged properly. And we've got 2 cup holders in here. The charge port location on the Audi is in the left front fender, which is my favorite place for a charge port. It means you can pull into most stations. Very easy to access. Now, to open up the charge port, you just push on in, and there you can see your location for level 1 and 2 charging, J1772. Pretty convenient, except it gets even better because the Audi, just like the Porsche, offers 2 charge ports. Yeah, I just love that. The one on the passenger side here is how you access your 1772, as well as your DC prongs for the CCS charging. And speaking of charging, this thing is an absolute monster. 270 kilowatts of peak charging, just like the Porsche, and they say 5 to 80% in right around 22 minutes, which is really very good. The Audi e-tron GT is a truly spectacular car from a design, a comfort, and a drivability standpoint. And in my opinion, it offers plenty of performance to the point where you don't need to spend the extra $30,000, $40,000 to get the RS. This one is plenty quick, but where it kind of falls down in comparison to the Tesla is the range. At just 238 miles, it's almost half the range of a long-range Tesla Model S. So that certainly is a factor. However, it does offer great charging, and I think the quality is significantly better Audi compared to Tesla. Now let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Thank you for watching TFL EV. As always, this has been Tommy. Behind the camera, Cole Pearson, killing it as videographer. We'll see you in the next video.